טוב, זה שוב בדבר מלכות של הרבי בפרשה... English. It's a shir in the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe, Parshas Shelach. This shir is taking place in the Beit, Knesset, Semiterik, on Yom Chamishi B'Layla, Oya L'Kof Beis, Sivan Tovshin Ayin Zay. So the Rebbe begins, we have before us a most amazingly complex document, but as always we'll try to at least give a general idea of what's going on. Yedua she'af she'bekol Shabbos koirim b'Torah parsha achas bilbad. In all the different Shabbos over the year, we read only one parsha. The Rebbe brings at the beginning of the Sikha the Rambam at the end of all his tefillah, the Rambam brings down the whole Seder of Kriyas HaTorah over the whole year, and there the Rambam says that there were different, once upon a time, different minhagim as to how they used to read each week and how many, within what space of time they finished. But now the minhag by almost all of Yidden is to finish the Torah in 1 year, and that involves reading one parsha, but the full parsha, every Shabbat. V'chol yoim b'shavua v'leimdim chelech echad me'aparsha. And according to the minhag by Chassidim, and it's Makubal Harbe B'Klal Yisrael, that each day we learn on Sunday we learn from Rishon, the beginning of the parsha till Sheni, and on Monday from Sheni to Shlishi V'chulu. Me'aparsha al-koshu le'isa hayoim. Afal pikein kol chelik me'aparsha koshu le'kol ha'parsha. It's not that chelik we read that day, even though there's a shaykhah to that particular day, as the one on the famous, and the Rebbe brings it at the beginning of the Sikha, the famous Pisgam of the Alter Rebbe, where the Alter Rebbe said we have to live with the times, and that means that we have to live with each chelik, each day of the Parshas Shavua, and we have to see how that particular day and that particular portion, the shaykh to that day, has a connection with the life of that day and everything that happens and so on and so forth. So therefore the Rebbe said, even though you read an individual parsha each day, well, that has a connection with the whole parsha. And he said the whole parsha is kshura l'kol Torah. It's a parsha of the whole Torah. So therefore it must be linked and inherent in the whole oneness of the whole Torah. And therefore the name we see in different places, even in this parsha, Torah Achas, we saw the whole Torah is called Torah Achas, one Torah, meaning a one and self-united and self-linked Torah, which means that every detail of the Torah is part of Torah Achas, and yet it doesn't disturb the Achas of the Torah that we take out individual hoiros for each day. And this is going to be a theme which reoccurs in this whole Sikha, that there's like inyonim al-pi kedusha, how they are mitzad klal, and like mitzad a unifying aspect to them, and embraces all details. And then there's a more particular function of each detail, how it comes out of the klal and has an effect on the world and ultimately the whole world. Uvda zu mudgeshes b'miyuchad b'parshasenu Parshas Shelach. Or this fact that despite the fact that we read the separate pieces every day, they are all part of a oneness and the unity of the Parsha and the whole Torah. He said that fact is emphasized very particularly in the Parshas Shelach. He said, Kol Parsha Kimat, not all of it, but a large section of the Parsha, Midaber Benoise Echot. And what is that? The Shiluach HaMeraglim, the sending of the I don't want to call them Meraglim, because ultimately the Rebbe doesn't learn that they were really Meraglim. So let's say the sending of the representatives, or whatever we'll call it. Yeah. Chones Lashlichos, how Moshe chose them and how we mentioned their names and so on. Yeah, how Regal Bapil, the actual journey of examination of Eretz Yisrael. Regal means like spying out that actually happened. Or Enosh, and then as a further part of the Parsha, the punishment which was placed on the Meraglim, Kol Am Yisrael. It wasn't only on the Meraglim, but it was due to a massive reaction on the part of the Klal Yisrael to what they said, which led to a oinash on them and on the whole Klal Yisrael. And then we see a very amazing thing which Rashi brings down. V'avtochas Hashem liYisrael shel amris hakoil heim yizku lehikonis la'oretz. Despite everything that's occurred, Yidden are going to go into Eretz Yisrael. And Rashi brings that down in the Parshas Nesochim, right at the very beginning, that immediately after the whole completion of the story of the Meraglim, you have the Parshas Nesochim. I think it's even like sort of before the end of a piece, it already starts talking about the Nesochim. And so Rashi writes over there that the Nesochim are shot to the Mishkan, and their everlasting commandments also for the Beis Hamikdash. So the Rebbe said that has a hint in it to the whole Klal Yisrael, that despite everything that's happened with the Meraglim, they are actually going to go into Eretz Yisrael. Not maybe this generation, but their children. Ultimately, the whole Klal Yisrael is going to enter Eretz Yisrael. And that's a very, how do you call it, moving Rashi. You've just finished this tremendously mind-boggling description of the 40 years punishment in the desert, and then all of a sudden Rashi said, no, but Hashem, by mentioning this parsha right alongside the parsha of Meraglim, he's come to promise the whole Klal Yisrael that they're actually going to go in to Eretz Yisrael. That's what he says here, Amreis HaKoil, Heim Yizko Lehikones La'oret. Kol Zeh, Mispares Al Pnei Kol HaParsha Kimat. That's almost the whole parsha. Kach shekedei lahovin ma b'diuk hoyo lo masprik l'kroi chelach achad me'parsha. If you want to know everything that it relates to the Meraglim and everything connected with the Meraglim and the outcomes of it, it's not enough to read just one part. Let's say the first or Sheni or Shlishi. You have to read all the whole portion talking about the Meraglim. So the Rebbe said that tends to be Mochiach. They were talking about Parsha Achaz, even though there are other themes which occurred towards the end, of the fact that so much of it divided into different sections deals with one theme. Well, that indicates that you can't separate one part from the other. And so the Rebbe says, take for example the completion of the whole parsha. So he said, Gam mitzvah tzitzis, aliyah muso b'vasima parsha, that's right at the very end of the parsha, matzbiya ala kesher shel kol mitzvah v'kol ha'torah kula. We see that there's an amazing thing in Hilchos Tzitzis, that Hilchos Tzitzis is a mitzvah in its own right. And yet, nonetheless, Rashi brings down, and Rashi's very, very to write all the details that in each set of tzitzis, yeah, and all of them together is Nirmas, the Mizpah 613. And that means all the mitzvahs of the Torah. And therefore the Torah says you have to look at if you look at the tzitzis, by studying your tzitzis, you remember it's called mitzvah Hashem. So here we see a mitzvah that is a specific mitzvah of its own, yet in that it also carries a clear reference to all the 613 commandments, and by looking at that, you are supposed to remember and gain a new commitment to all the mitzvahs of the Torah. So we see that it's a very amazing example of a detail which really is referring to and part of the whole club. So the Rebbe said that fact that mitzvah tzitzis occurs at the end of Parshas Shelach bears out further this whole idea that therefore Shelach divides a whole big part of itself into several sections, showing that you can learn each section separately, but you can't really understand the whole unless you have all of them together. Well, that tends to indicate the whole concept we're bearing out, and that's brought out particularly in the mitzvah of tzitzis. Therefore he says, Bekach shel amrish shazuhi mitzvah pratias, apart from the fact that that is a specific mitzvah, tzitzis, Nema leyo ureisa moisoi uzachartem es kol mitzvah Hashem. That by looking and studying, by the way, it's a very interesting inyan in the great Rishonim, the great counters of the mitzvahs, that some will say that there's a special mitzvah saseh to look at your tzitzis by studying the tzitzis, and therefore those who put them up in front of their eyes and so on. He said that according to certain Rishonim, that's part of the kiyum of the mitzvah. It's like a separate, not just part of the kiyum of the mitzvah, it's like a separate mitzvah, all of its own, to see the tzitzis. Let's say the tzitzis are a mitzvah, and then there's another mitzvah to see the tzitzis. Yeah. So he said, what do you see? You see kol mitzvah Hashem. Yeah, v'hi af. And in addition, Rashi brings Shkula keneged kol mitzvah. It's literally weighed up against all of the mitzvah. Yeah, mashu mochiach shekol inyan u mitzvah protias kushur lekol haTorah. That bears out a general rule. It's just in a very powerful way that all mitzvahs are really like that. You can find that aspect in all mitzvahs. Just that it insists that it's very clear and made very pointedly a point of it, but it's really true of all the mitzvahs that each mitzvah has its own particular function and demand, and then it has how it's a part of all the 613, and it shows and indicates how they're all part and parcel of one big shleimus of actus biyachad. And therefore, for example, as brought down in the great Sforim, for example, we have a klal that oisek b'mitzvah potter min ha-mitzvah. If you do one mitzvah, then you're potter from all the other mitzvahs. So why would that be the case? So the answer is that one mitzvah has in itself a connection and a actus and a showing of its connection with all the other mitzvahs. So that if you do one mitzvah, it's clearly got all the other mitzvahs together. However, what still requires an explanation, hu mahu hakesher bein rayon ha'aftas b'Torah ha'mudish b'miyuchad b'parsha lebein toichno. So the intelligent reader says, okay, I see that in the Parsha we have this, how each individual part is a thing on its own, but it's all part of a Torah achas, and the mitzvah of tzitzis into the bargain. But also the question, what sort of connection does that message that Parsha Shelach indicates of this actus of the whole Torah together with its pratim, what's that got to do with the Sipur that is actually the main theme of the Parsha? Parshas HaMeraglim is a Madua Kol Zeh Noifel Davkir B'Seif Chodesh Sivan. And why is it that Dafki always we read Parshas Shelach right near the end of Chodesh Sivan, and like it's brought down, that the Mishloach HaMeraglim was Kof Tes Sivan. They actually left on Kof Tes Sivan. The whole thing seems to have a connection also with the Siyum of Chodesh Sivan. So there we are. We got a Ein and a Parshas Shelach indicates clearly this whole idea of how details are all part of one big shleimus, even though they have their own individual message to give. But why is that connected with the story of the Meraglim? And what's got to do with the latter part of Chodesh Sivan? So those are the questions. So the Rebbe said, Parshas Shelach Mesaperes ala Meraglim Shelach Moika. That's what the Parshas Shavua talks about, even though they're not called Meraglim, but they're called Anoshim that Moshe Rabbeinu sent. And he said, Gamba Haftorah, also in the lesson from the prophets called the Haftorah, Sheiki Yadua Ma'in HaParsha. It's well known that it's a requirement that the Haftorah has to be what's called Ma'in. It has to have a inner content that we find in the Parsha, also in the Haftarah. Mesupa Keita Yoshua Shelach Meraglim. So the Rebbe said there's a lot of differences. However, we study carefully how Moshe sent his representatives. I don't want to call them spies because it appears that Moshe didn't send them as spies. But Yeshua did, and it's written clearly that he sent them Shnei Anoshim Meraglim. So we see that they're clear that they're called Meraglim. He said, Bein Shnei Shlichi Oiselu Yeshnam Mishpah Hevdelim Adirshim Bia. The Rebbe said, between these two stories of sending of spies, let's call them, or representative observers, or whatever we'll call them, there's obvious differences, and they're going to become important to our understanding of what the whole Indian, and the Rebbe is going to make here in what I feel is a almost revolutionary idea of what is the whole purpose why Moshe Rabbeinu sent the Meraglim. What is the whole Indian, which makes so much no sense when you read the Parshas. If you just read the Parshas, there's so many things. Hashem was told right at the beginning, Moshe was told right at the beginning by Hashem, I'm not commanding you to do it. If you want to do it yourself. And watch out because I'm going to cause them to be mistaken and who knows what, all sorts of things. Nonetheless, Moshe sends the people, and then they come back and they say something that's true, is good, and then they blow everything in the most terrible way. The whole thing just doesn't make any sense. And particularly that Hashem promised the Jewish people right from the beginning that He's going to take them into a land of milk and honey with the guns. What did we need the whole thing for? It's so we're going to see a very fascinating suggestion on the Rebbe's part. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's kavanah? So he said, Parshas Hashavua Mesaperes ala Meraglim. But however, there's obvious differences between the two sendings. Bein Shnei Shlichos Yeshnam Mishpah Hevdelim Adirshim Bia. Number one, Moshe Shelach Meraglim al das Atzmai. Hashem said to him, Ukapisho Hashem Amar Loi Shlach Lecho. Lecho. So what's the meaning of Lecho? L'daitcho. Ani Eini Matzav Lecho. I'm not telling you to do it. If you want to send, then send on your own, as it were, achrayas, on your own decision. Liuma Zayis Yeshua Nitztave al Yidei Hashem L'Shleach HaMeraglim. Now it's not written in the pasuk, is it? It's not written in the pasuk clearly that Hashem said to Yeshua to send the Meraglim. But the Rebbe brings down from the great Meforshim that it wouldn't be imaginable that Yeshua would have done a thing like that on his own decision. After what happened with the Meraglim of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he's at the end of the whole punishment that occurred, the whole terrible ego in the desert for 40 years, the whole thing, Yeshua wouldn't have dared do a thing like that on his own. It's Bora and Muvan, and therefore the Radak and the other great Meforshim over there, they write with the Pshita that Hashem told him to do it. So therefore the Rebbe also brings it with the Parshas. We have to say that Yeshua was commanded al Yidei Hashem l'shleach meraglim. 2. Eitzel Moshe lo mofia habitui meraglim. Now this is a very, very key point. If you look through the whole parsha, you don't find the word meraglim, only in Rashi. Rashi mentions the word meraglim once or twice, and the parsha calls them anoshim. Anoshim, or those who went to be mature first in a general way with general terminology, but it doesn't actually call them a name indicating spying activities. So therefore the word meraglim doesn't occur by Moshe Rabbeinu. Ne'emarak shlach lecha anoshim, people. Anoshim means, so Rashi says that anoshim means important people. Anoshim is Meloshan Chashiva, which tends to indicate that they were even very important people. And there Rashi writes, at that particular moment, they were still, how do you call it, fitting. They hadn't actually fallen into their own mistake yet. But Yosuru is there its command. It's not written to spy, but it's written to, Yosuru means literally to travel around. How do you call it? To look out and see what's going on in the country. But not to spy in a military way. But Yeshua now Mamufurish Anoshim Meraglim. By Yeshua, it's written clear that he sent them with the intention of them being military spy. Moshe Shelach 12 Anoshim. Moshe Rabbeinu sent 12 people. Moshe sent 12 people, but Yeshua Shelach rak shnei Anoshim. So that's also a very important difference. And they don't necessarily represent any given, sort of division of the tribe. Ve'ilo, I'm sorry, thank you. Ve'ilo Moshe Rabbeinu, he sent Yishachod la Mateh. Each one was from a given tribe, and he was like a leading figure in that tribe. Yeshua just sent 2 people, albeit very important people, but they weren't necessarily like representatives of any given system of the tribes. They were just 2 important people. They were Kolev, he went again, Kolev ben Yefuneh, and Pinchas. We have Pinchas. Ben Loza HaKoyen, Pinchas. Moshe Shalach es Nesiya Yisrael. He sent people that were very important leaders and what we might call princes or spiritual leaders, each one in his own tribe. V'nikta b'Torah mi b'diuk nishlach, and it's written clearly in the Torah who they are, and their names, and their father's names. It's written clearly that you couldn't have any mistake who these people are. Ve'ilu Yeshua shalach anoshim stam. V'loi kosav afilu mihaim hayu. It's not written in the Pasuk who they were. It just so happens that Rashi brings down B'Shem Droshi Chazal that we happen to know that they were Kolev and Pinchas, but it's not mentioned B'Klal in the whole story of what they did and how they met up with Rachel. She hid them and told them to go down over the wall. And it's not written in B'Klal who they were. So that's of great interest. Why would that be the case? המרגלים של מוישה פרסמו את עצמם. Here's a very interesting thing. He said the Meraglim of Moshe Rabbeinu were not anxious to hide themselves. And there's 12 of them. So 12 impressive people like that, all together in a group, come in all of a sudden into a country, they start walking around. And they walked all the way around the whole country. They saw the whole of earth. The Ela, the Meraglim of Yeshua, they only got as far as Yericho, and then immediately they had to, and yet nonetheless, they carried out their whole shlichus, and when they got back to Yeshua, they said to him, there's absolutely no doubt that we're going to conquer, and we're going to be successful. So, you know, the whole thing is just a portion. The Elo, the Meraglim, Shelach Moshe, they went all around the country, and they're all together. So if you got a whole group of guys, 12 importantly people, and then later they schneided themselves a huge, a massive, how do you call it, eshkol of anabim and everything. These sort of people attract attention. So Emes Rashi brings that the Eibishter made them busy, that they had a lot of Rahman and Atlan, Levi's, and they were burying people. They didn't have enough but nonetheless, if you think about it, even with all that together, you got these people walking around for 40 days, and apparently they're observing something. I mean, we've got to work out what were they actually observing. It's something that should have attracted attention, but we don't find that the Canaanite made anything out of it. So we see that, and also when they went from the camp to begin their whole shlichas, everybody knew about it. All the Yidden knew that Moshe Rabbeinu had sent these people, because they saw Moshe Rabbeinu going around choosing them from their tribe. And then also, when they came back, they spoke to Rivers. Yoshivu Dova es Yoshua ben Nun Shlichas Moshe ves Kol Eido. Ves Kol Eido. So they spoke to everybody. So the Rebbe says that the Meraglim, Yeshua Moshe Pirsamo es Atzmam, Kol B'nai Yisrael Yodu Keshamarabling Hochu V'chozru. You have gone to Eretz Yisrael, and also when they were actually inside Eretz Yisrael, Eimloi Hochu B'nifrad U'B'seisa, Ela Kulam B'yachad. They didn't go hidingly or in some way concealed, but all of them together, the whole, group of them, impressive looking guys, all of them together. Ad Shashem Asa Nes Miyuchad, that the Canaanim were busy making labayas. It was so obvious that somebody should realize that these guys are strangers walking around, and the Eibishter made it in such a way that even though it was very likely, it didn't happen. They went after you very secretly. It brought down in the Meforshim that everybody except for Yeshua and maybe the leaders of the army, the actual leaders of those who were actually going to carry out the conquest, they didn't know that there were any spies that had been sent. The Yidden, boy from Kloli, they didn't know. Yeshua, af tzivu aleim shiyu meragli cheresh. What the word cheresh means, like silent. The word cheresh can also be a noun. Here it's an adjective, but it can also be a noun for a deaf person or a person who doesn't hear. Avameli, you have to be meragli cheresh. You have to keep yourself very hidden, and I must be very hush-hush. Vayisnagu ki Elohim chereshim. They have to behave as if they were deaf. They don't hear, they don't speak. V'gam be'eretz Yisrael, הם נאלצו להתחבא, בבית ראשון, בבית ראשון, הם הגיעו. So he says that also, when eventually they came into Eretz Yisrael, B'bayis HaRishon, I see what he means. He doesn't mean, I thought for a moment, Bayis Rishon. I thought he meant the Beis Hamikdash. I'm sorry. He means that when they got into Eretz Yisrael, almost the first house that they reached, they had to already hide. In other words, that the enemy already picked up them, the intelligence of the enemy picked up that they were present very quickly. So that the first house that they reached, what she lived in the, how do you call it, in the wall. She lived in the wall of Jericho. So that was one of the first houses that they reached. They had to hide and they had to take care not to be revealed. Miragli Moshe Yistevu B'Kol Yisrael Kula. The spies of Moshe Rabbeinu, they went around the whole time in the whole of Eretz Yisrael. B'Kol Yisrael Kula. Ve'ilo Miragli Yoshua Amnom Nitztavu L'Ragli Es Kol Haaretz. Yoshua said to them, Yeviru Es Kol Haaretz, Avu B'Piyul B'Is Halayla, Shehem Higiu L'Bayis HaRohov, Haim Ne'alzu L'Hitchabei Michutz Le'ir. She let them down, and she said, Ahora, not to flee to the mountain and hide over there. Miyad Haim Chorzu L'Yoshua. They came back in the space of about 36 hours after he sent them. That was the finish of their whole shlichus. Yeah, so we see that here was a very lengthy shlichus of 40 days in big pirusim, and they were wandering around all over the country, and they went with Rochbo, with Ocho, with the whole thing. The Ilabai Yeshua, that they called Meraglim, in the real sense, they were only there just for a few hours. And so what was really the Hatzlocha is what they heard from Roho. What she told them was the situation in the whole country and how people were psychologically unbalanced by the fact that the Yidden were coming in their direction and so on. And from that they realized that they were going to be able to conquer the whole country. So therefore we see a tremendous difference between the way Moshe Rabbeinu's spies were meant to do it and the way Yeshua did it. So he said, "Ha'ezber lekachu sheshtei hashlichiyos shel Moshe v'Yeshua hayu l'tzorech shtei matoros shonos shehishlimu zu ezu." He said the truth is the reason there's so many differences between the way Moshe Rabbeinu sent his spies, if we call them that, and the way Yeshua sent, because they had two different aims altogether. They were out to gain two different purposes altogether, and ultimately, even though there was a big gap in time between them, each one, what you might call, perfects and brings us shleimus one to the other. Yeah, so the Rebbe said we need to work out what was Moshe Rabbeinu really, what was his intention in sending this book, and then we'll be able to understand clearer the differences between Yeshua and what was Yeshua's ultimate aim. What was he aiming for when he sent his spies? Yeshna pulas rigo b'ktei lodas keitzad lichboish, v'yeshna pulas rigo kedei lahakia es ha'oretz kedei sheha'om yirtzu la'alis le'eretz or la'oretz basimcha or besimcha. So the Rebbe says that there are two main ideas why you would send spies. One of them a military matorah, and the other a more spiritual matorah that's got to do with all the people who've got to actually go and carry out the what you might call the conquest. So he said the first one, let's read them. So what are they? So he said, he said the first one is a military thing in order to study the country. How are you actually going to conquer it militarily? That's one reason why you would send spies. He said another reason why you send spies is not because you're worried at all about the military conquest. Either you know that the military conquest is going to be anyway, for sure, it's insured, or because it's going to be so miraculous that it's not an issue, as it were. Why would you send spies? You send spies to see the great milers of the country that you want to take over, and that's important because that makes everybody feel tremendously motivated to go ahead. Because we see that there's been enough tzoros in the Midbar, people saying, listen, let's go back to Mitzrayim, at least we had, it wasn't good, but we had at least minimal things and so on and so forth. Why should we want to go to this whole new place? Who knows what's there? Therefore, there's an intent to send observers, not spies in the military sense, but intelligent and elevated people who will observe the whole thing, and they will come back and tell these great minders to the general people, and then they will gain a great motivation to go ahead. You follow? So he said that's the difference between the two shlichim. Yeshua, he took two people because it's better to keep that to a minimum. He's sent on a purely military basis to see what's happening. So are we going to be successful in the kibush, and how are we going to do it? However, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't send for a military purpose. Here we have to bear in mind that Moshe Rabbeinu and all the Jewish people who went out of Egypt had already been promised by Hashem that they were going to go into Eretz Yisrael, and they'd been promised that it was a great country. However, we'll see as we go along, the Rebbe suggests a reason why nonetheless Moshe Rabbeinu, despite those promises it was a good country, nonetheless wanted the people should hear from the Meraglim just how good it is. There's a certain reason for that. However, on the military level, there was no worry, because they had been promised that the whole thing's going to be miraculous. Now we have to realize that had they gone into Eretz Yisrael straight away, and they hadn't been the whole Chet of Meraglim, it's well known that the whole conquest of Eretz Yisrael would have been a few days, and it would have been absolutely miraculous, and they would have folded up in front of them absolutely. Like it's brought down in many places and in many stories, and it's also hinted at in Parshas Baloiska. In last week's Parsha, that Moshe Rabbeinu said to Yisrael when he tried to persuade him to stay, he said, we're going and we're just going to walk in there and we're just going to take over the whole country. And so that's the way it would have been had they gone promptly into it. So militarily, Moshe Rabbeinu, from his point of view, he didn't have any worries. He knew that there was going to be a miraculous conquest. He had in mind only that everybody should see and hear, rather, from their representatives, the great milah of Eretz, the great beauty and wondrousness of Eretz Yisrael. I'll hear they already knew that also. We'll see the Rebbe brings out there's a special reason why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted that. It wasn't a military union. It's only that since they were delayed 40 years in the desert, then there was a certain Yerida, and therefore Yeshua wasn't on the same level as Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore Yeshua had to conquer Eretz Yisrael. There had to be a military campaign to conquer Eretz Yisrael and to take it over. Therefore, there had to be a sending of spies to work out the military aspect of it. Avamela says the Rebbe, those are the two aims. So he said, "Zu eifo hahevdel bein meragli Moshe leYoshua, meragli Moshe lo nishlachu kedei ladas keitzad likvei." How to carry out the conquest, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have that in mind at all. Ela kedei lahakir es ha'oretz, to see what sort of an amazing country Eretz Yisrael was. Ve'ilu meragli Yeshua, the meraglim Yeshua said, כבר לא היו צריכים להכיר את מעלותיה של ארץ ישראל. He said they didn't need to know about the great miles because they knew it already. They didn't need to find out anything about that. Why? כיוון שזה כבר נעשה בשלימות בזמן של מוישה. That the Meraglim that Moshe Rabbeinu said when they came back, the first things that they said were true. And they said the greatness of Eretz Yisrael, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted. And so the whole Jewish people heard that Eretz Yisrael is an amazingly wonderful place. So they didn't need to know that anymore in the Yeshua. He came, what's Yeshua sending Meraglim for? We have to say he sent them only on a military basis because Judah, the Yerida, after the whole 40 years in the desert, he was going to have to make a military conquest of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore he said, Meragli Yeshua, you took him to das, Keitad Ligbeis, how to go about conquering the country. Yeah, Be'ezi Ir Lehilochem, Koidem Ukadem, go about the military strategy. Yeah, Kivin Shebizman, Shal Yeshua, Hoya Zakukim Gam Lecha, in the level that Yeshua was on, they were requiring that also. They needed the idea of military conquest. If had Moshe Rabbeinu gone in, it wouldn't have required that. Therefore, the whole union of Moshe Rabbeinu's Meraglim was only to talk about the milas of Eretz Yisrael and tell everybody the great milas of Eretz Yisrael. That's all. That's the whole reason. Therefore, they're not called Meraglim, and they're called Anoshim, and everything was fine. And as the Rebbe's famous beer in what Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Yeshua, Vayiko Moshe L'Hoshea Ben Nini Yeshua, Moshe brings it, he prayed on him that he shouldn't fall into the Atzas Meraglim, not Ha-Meraglim, but he shouldn't fall into Atzas Meraglim. In other words, there's a thing called what spies do. Don't fall into that because you guys are not spies. Don't fall into the way of looking at it as if you're a spy. You're not that. You're being sent for something else. That's how the Rebbe learned of that Rashi. It's very famous, very wonderful. Abba Melech says, the Rebbe, now let's get down to more details and let's see what we can sort of develop on these two main differences that we just established. B'nai Yisrael bikshu mi-Moshe meraglim al manas l'ragil eso. He said that in Parshas Dvarim, at the beginning of Sefer Dvarim, Moshe Rabbeinu retells the whole story of the meraglim. Then it's written that the whole crowd of the people came to Moshe Rabbeinu, and it said that they want to send in order to spy the land. Ladas meheken kedai lahatchil lehilochem kedera kol haboim lehilochem beretz acheres. Moshe Rabbeinu heard from most of the people that came and were pressurizing him, as he tells the story, that's what they had in mind. They wanted the idea of spies, kipshutei. Ubil shainom nishlocha anoshim lefoneinu v'yachperu. Yeraglu, the word Yachperu means to be Yeraglu, Esoret. Yachperu means to look around and find where the weak points are. For example, it's written Moshe, what's his name? Yosef HaTzadik. When his brothers came to Mitzrayim, he accused them, as it were, he accused them of being spies, and he says, Lakpoyas, Horet Potter. He came to examine the weak points of the country. So that's what the people said to Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, that's not why he sent the Meraglim. It wasn't necessary to know any military aspect. Moshe Rabbeinu was looking forward to a miraculous war. That's what Moshe said to the Meraglim later, after they'd already had their mistake. He said, listen, we don't have to worry about the military side of it. Asiba lakach, the reason for that is, Moshe Shelach meraglim, oysa afarach bektei lahakia tchunas ha'oretz u'maya lo yiseiho. And therefore the whole reason why Moshe Rabbeinu sent the meraglim was only to understand the characteristic, and he called the inner content of Eretz Yisrael and its milah. U'ra'isa meso oretz mahi haim eretzu megadelas giborim u'chaloshim anoshim rabim oy me'atim. So the Rebbe says, not because we need to know are they giborim or chaloshim, but he said, if you have a land which it causes strong people to grow, then that's a sign that it's a very good land. And if you look carefully in Rashi, you'll see how in all the things that Moshe Rabbeinu said, even what looked to be the military things, Rashi is mafarish that it's all different things about the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore one example is, he said, are they Rishon Oretz Mahi. And then Rashi said there's some countries that they cause to grow strong people. So some people learn pshat that means that he was worried about are they strong people, are they good soldiers. So Rashi says no, that's not what he was worried about. If they're strong people, that's a sign that the land is a very good land. That's a sign that the land is a great land. But not that he was worried about are they Giborim or are they Chaloshim. He wasn't concerned about that. And Kachazeh Ba'harbe in Yonim, and there's an amazing series of Pilpulim from the Rebbe in Rashi, and the Rebbe, and with also amazing footnotes and all sorts of observations, the Rebbe shows how everything that Rashi says about what Moshe Rabbeinu told the Meraglim they should look for is all about only the milah and the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't really, even when it mentions certain things which look military, it doesn't mean that. It means only how those things indicate the greatness of the country itself. That's what the Rebbe went. Anoshim rabim oy miatim. If there's more people or less, that indicates that it's a good country or a bad country. If it's a lot of people, it's a sign it's a rich country. A lot of people means there's a lot of good things go there, so people multiply. But if there's less people, well, that's a sign it's not a good country. Zu asiba shomoshe bikesh b'miyuvad lahari says peiros oretz hatoivim. Therefore he said very specially to his Meraglim that you should bring back from the pre-ha order. So why did they have to bring back from the past? What's the nafkamina? We're looking at the military situation. What's got to do with the pre-ha order? What does it matter? Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to show them that if you see these amazing peiros, this is a sign of what sort of country it is. It's the most amazing country. So therefore he says, laharish peiros orot ha'toivim v'ashmeinim b'kdei kulam yiru es Eretz Yisrael es tu Eretz Yisrael. People should see the wondrous goodness that there is in Eretz Yisrael, which means that when they would go, they would all go b'simcha and not have any doubts and not hold back. He said, "Ochain matarazu is kaima b'shleimusa alidei meraglei Moshe." So the Rebbe says an amazing thing, that part of what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted of them, which was the Ikar part that he wanted of them, that actually was Mekuyam. Yes, shechozru v'yomru bonu el eretz asher shalachtanu v'gam zolos cholav u'devashi v'zeh pirya. They said it's a land of milk and honey, and this is the peiros, and these were great peiros. So they said exactly what was required of them. Habaya shalehem oyesor sheim oisifu The reason why they had their whole Yerida was that they added to what Moshe Rabbeinu asked of them. V'onu esma shaloi bikshu mihem. They said things that nobody asked them. To say, Shaladaitum lo yinuchal la'aloyres. We're not able to go up and enter to Eretz HaKodesh. Now nobody asked them that. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu, because there was no doubt about that by Moshe Rabbeinu. And that wasn't what was bothering anybody. Just, is it a good country, so people should feel enthusiastic about the actual entry. But that's all. And the whole thing that they added, that was their downfall, because they weren't asked. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu asked them to comment about. Therefore, says the Rebbe, the problem that they got into was that they added on what they were requested. HaMeraglim showed Yeshua. However, with the Meraglim of Yeshua, it's different. They didn't need to know whether Eretz Yisrael was good or bad, and the quality and the greatness of the goodness of Eretz Yisrael. Also Meraglim Moshe. But how did they know that? They knew that already from the Meraglim of Moshe. And if that Moshe Rabbeinu really did achieve from his Meraglim what he was really out for. And they'd already told everybody, so Yeshua and his two Meraglim knew that already. Tafkidam hoya lirosh ketzat lichbois. It was now a lower generation, and therefore they were going to have to be koivish, Eretz Yisrael. And therefore they need to know on a military basis what are they doing. Ki bizman shod Yeshua akivush kolei hoya kokak nisi. Kamoi betkufas Moshe. V'hoyu tzrikim gam pu'ulis b'terateva. It's one on. Brought down in Siddur from the Rebbe in the earlier Chalachim of the Lakutei Sikhs, where the Rebbe makes that whole difference. At the time of Moshe, the whole Kivush would have been different entirely, and by the time we reach the time of Yeshua, which is 40 years later, and his leadership, it's already a different level, and it's B'derech HaTeva. Since B'derech HaTeva, then we need to know the military side of things which are happening. And therefore, he sent his Meraglim Davkir on that basis. So the Rebbe said, Im kein keish novi neitev es asibel kolav deilim. Now we'll understand very clearly what is the purpose, what is the reason for all of these differences that we found between Meragli Moshe and Meragli Yeshua. And what is the basic determining point that there's so many differences between them. So he says, B'zman shel Moshe lo yitzivu Hashem l'shleich Meraglim kiven shelo hoya shum tzorech l'das eik yoseh kal likbois es oreh. Kasher hakivush nasa al yidei Hashem, the kivush would have taken place through Hashem had they wanted. Aval mikivan shebnei Yisrael bikshu hiskim l'kach Moshe Rabbeinu agreed mitoich tikva shehem yishchatu b'reyosam she'ein hisnagdas l'kach. Oh, here's a very key svara. The Rebbe said that Moshe Rabbeinu felt that since the Meraglim were very great people, and they were very learned men, and they were intelligent people, that when they saw the greatness of Eretz Yisrael, and they saw that Hashem helped them, that they were all burying their dead, or they didn't pay any attention, when they saw all that, so then they would drop their military idea, and they would go over to his idea that the whole thing was only to show the greatness of Eretz Yisrael. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu thought. But however, when they didn't change their minds about their idea, Shaul Moshe Hashem, Hayim kidai l'shleich Meraglim rak kedei lirus es tiva oreh. So gam lezeh lo yehoya tzorech mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hayinu hanami, the Eibishter didn't really need that, given shehu kvar omar l'Yisrael shehi toiva. אבל Moshe, Royam Shel Israel, the shepherd of the whole Jewish people, רואה שהם צריכים בכל זאת מישהו שיראה את האורץ וישמחם במעשיו. Moshe Rabbeinu saw that nonetheless the Jewish people were still a bit on a lower level, and if they'll see the greatness of Eretz Israel, then that will be the determining factor with them, and they'll want to go only for that reason. That's what Hashem agreed to Moshe Rabbeinu, the idea of sending for that purpose altogether. Avamele comes says that Moshe Rabbeinu played a very delicate line, and he relied on the greatness of the Meraglim. He relied that they would, being his Talmidim, that they would change their mind when they got there, and they would see the greatness of the land, and they would remember that Hashem had promised it, and therefore they would go with his line, and they would forget the whole idea of the military aspect of it. But unfortunately, they didn't rise to the expectation. But they did reveal the greatness of the land. So Kumte is in that particular detail, Moshe Rabbeinu was very much there. Because when they came back, they told everybody what a great country it was. So therefore, when Yeshua, he was sending Meraglim, he already knew how great Eretz Israel was, so did his Meraglim, so did everybody. All they needed was just a purely military strategy to get a picture of the morale of the enemy. You got it? That's all. And therefore, Lochen, Shelach Moshe, Anoshim, he didn't send spies. Laturas Oretz, Loila Ragaloiso, right to travel around in the country. Davke, Eshneim also Nasi Israel. He sent Davke 12 different princes of the Jewish people, given Shekol Echad Makir Shiftoi, since each one of them knows well, his Shevet, and he knows who his people are. V'yoiteya Mahu Tzorik, and he knows what his Shevet needs. Because Shekol Shevet Ishma Mi'anosi Shaloi. שהאורץ טבע בוודאי יגרם לו הדובר לעליס לארץ בשמחה כתלה. So the Rebbe's got a whole pilpul here that at this point nobody knew what was going to be done, except for maybe Yosef had been told by Yaakov, there'd been hints who would get where, but really nobody knew yet exactly what part of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, all the Nasim had to look at the whole of it, and they had to know that everything was good, so that later, when the Goyro would occur, and each one would get, they would be able to assure their people that we saw this whole country, and wherever you'll get here, this is really great stuff. You follow? And that would reassure everybody, and everybody would be pleased. And therefore, you didn't need at that particular point that they would know exactly. And that's why all 12 Nasiim had to go around the whole country. Because the Rebbe said, it would have been enough to send each Nasi to that portion which he knows is going to be for his people. And he would see that, and he would come back and tell them it's great. But since nobody knew yet exactly who was going to get where, therefore all 12 of them had to go around through the whole country. And then when he came back, he said, well, they said each Nasi that this is just such a wonderful place. Rely on Hashem, whatever you'll be getting from the girl, it's worth it. Doesn't matter. Therefore, all of them had to travel and see the whole country. However, we're not going to make it because I have to pause for a minute. I'm sort of running out of curses a little bit. But there's another very amazing point here, what the Rebbe said. And that is, the Rebbe said there's another reason more in Panemius why we have to say that all 12 had to go all around the whole country. And so the Rebbe says like this, that Moshe Rabbeinu's spies, they represent one way in which Hashem approaches through man and mankind which he wants them ultimately to make a dira b'shulei b'taktonim, he approaches that aim in two ways. One, through the essential actors of all the human race, and their, as it were, oneness and the great spiritual power that they represent as a united, what you might call, body together. You follow? And then there's another, and that has a tremendous effect on the whole world. And that's what we call bittul, or mitzat the Chaim Madrega of that actors. That brings like a beetle into the world, and it's like a preparation. However, the ultimate idea of a dira is that every detail is going to be sanctified and brought to the message. It's going to be given, the pnimis of the message. So therefore, Shnei Masor, that represents the detailed mila of each, as it were, tribe, and each tribe is made up of individuals under their nasi. But he's not cancelling out their importance as individuals. So therefore, there's another aspect of the dira b'taktonim where detailed koiches go in and they bring about an ultimate perfection in the whole dira b'taktonim, that each individual aspect has been covered. And Elo, the more general way, has a much deeper power, but it's a more general effect. So he said that's the difference between the two in Yom. Moshe Rabbeinu's Meraglim, they represented, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu hoped for them, that they would prepare the whole of Eretz Yisrael in an individual way with their koiches. Yeah, ish echad l'shevet. Yeah, the individual power of each echad, well, that would be, but it's an individual, and that would be the many that would affect the whole situation and begin building the dira b'taktonim. Yeshua, in a more pneumistic or even, Yeshua was like the finishing off of that whole process. And Yeshua, he said 2 people bilvad. So the Rebbe said 2 people really represents one united shleimus of after. Why? Because in every Inyan in Torah we have loy saseh and we have aseh. We have positivity and negative. So those, and the Rebbe said that's Kolev and Pinchas. Pinchas was the one who took a tremendous revenging thing against a negative thing. He's a fighter against negative things. Kolev went immediately to the fathers and he prayed, and he was all for doing things in a very, very high spiritual way. I say, that's more like the idea of positivity. Therefore, Yeshua's 2 spies, they were like the perfection of the oneness and the cloud, but that brings a much deeper bittul into the whole world in a general way. There were 2, and their ultimate purpose was to finish off everything. That bittul, and that is like a perfection that comes after the main groundwork has been done. So Moshe Rabbeinu's 12 individual people, albeit, but 12, they had to go all around the whole Eretz, because they had to bring that individual power into every aspect of Eretz Yisrael, and that's connected with the idea of Pirsum. Pirsum is good in that regard. People know that there's a general ultimate aim that we've got to get down to work. How's the old saying have it? You have to Yoima Ishli Ovim Chazak, you got to encourage and give power to your neighbor and everything like that. However, Yeshua represents a holistic, ultimate bittul, that everything is bottled. It's a bittul, and it's all the power of the actors of the Eibishter and the actors of the whole Jewish people, and that's like the finishing touch which leads to dira b'taktonim. So the Rebbe said those are the 2 things in mitzvahs tzitzas also. That there's one thing about mitzvahs tzitzas, that it's an individual mitzvah, and it's very powerful, but it's also got a general all-enveloping aspect to it, but it includes all the mitzvahs, like the power of our actors, miyuchedes, in mitzvahs tzitzas, we don't find mentioned by the other mitzvahs. So therefore said the Rebbe, that's like Meragli Moshe and Meragli Yeshua. But it's all taking on one amazing oneness. That's the way the Rebbe learns it. It's an amazing, absolutely amazing picture. And Amela, then the Rebbe gets on to the Yossi Glover. He says, that's the whole Inna, Moshiach, that we have to prepare for Moshiach, we're going to do all the groundwork, and each individual's got to be there, and he's got to give what he can give. Isha Chad, Isha Echad. You say, who am I? You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say, who am I? You are a very important person. You're a Nasi. You're a leader in your own Indian. You're a leader. So you got to, within your group, you got to be a leader, and you got to see that they all get cracking. And they've all got to do the basic groundwork. And then the Yeshua represents the ultimate oneness. Yeah, B'yomahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmaya echad. It's all going to come down, and the whole world is going to turn into the bittul telekus and into achtas. And that's what's going to happen. Kamayim liyom mechasim, that the water of the achtas is going to cover everywhere. The pshitas. So that's basically, thanks to Hashem, we've been able to give over the basic message. So I think everybody will agree that this is pretty mind-boggling. So there you are. I've gone over my usual time a little, but it's a tremendously key inyan, and it's a whole different understanding. It's a whole amazing idea, of what was the difference between these two great senders of representatives, what it's all about, and how it all interrelates. The main thing is, we want Mashiach. No, this is the time.
Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu can't tell them that they're going to be going into Eretz Yisrael with miracles? Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu can't tell the Jewish people that they're going to be going into Israel with miracles? There's nothing to be afraid of.
Why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu tell them?
Why did Moshe Rabbeinu tell them that there's nothing to be afraid of?
They should what?
There's nothing to be afraid of going into Israel. There's going to be miracles.
They should look at the Israelis.
There's going to be miracles by conquering the country. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't tell them.
Why did Hashem need to do that?
Why does Moshe tell them?
Why did Moshe tell them that they were going to have missing? Well, he relied on the fact that they were great people and they would see themselves that they had missing. And we see that he relied on them a lot. That's a key swara that the Rebbe held, that they would begin to realize, once they saw all those missing, that this wasn't just done as a military strategy. You follow? And he built on that. And as it were, they let Moshe Rabbeinu down very heavily. I say, that's what we have to learn. Eishalo, outside Pnimius, that Moshe Rabbeinu must have had some tremendous expectation, because Hashem said, I'm not telling you to do this. This is your Indian. As Moshe Rabbeinu took on himself an amazing, what you might call achrayas, and he had great hope in these people. That's what we have to understand. And he hoped that when they would see all these missing, that they would. And that's what the Rebbe goes on to say, that there's another very deep Indian here, that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want that it should all be based on emunah. Moshe Rabbeinu wanted that each individual member of each tribe would himself see and hear that in effect was the case. And so that would be a bira in the Tata and Gufin. You follow? Yeah.
In the last week's Quran,
and to a certain extent they clapped, but at the last minute they blew the whole thing. That's at the beginning. They were okay. At the beginning they said, "Oh yes, that's when look at this fruit." At the beginning everything was all right, and then all of a sudden.
But the mistake started. The mistake started when they were in Israel. The mistake starts when they're in Eretz Yisrael. mistake that they don't want to tell the truth. They want to give their own opinion. It started when they were in Israel. Yeshua went to pray that he shouldn't fall into it.
Yeshua?
He went to Hebron to pray that he shouldn't fall into the mistake.
You mean Caleb?
Caleb.
Caleb, not Yeshua.
Caleb, he went to pray.
Yeah, it's brought down in Sforim. It's a very amazing thing. I saw him from the Skirtz. He said that the two Mashiachim are from those two that they had nothing to do with the Meraglim. Caleb, he's from Yehuda. This is Mashiach ben David. And Yeshua, he's from Ephraim, but that's Yosef. So this Mashiach ben Yosef. Now, the Yerachim HaKadosh brings B'Shem HaRabizah, yet you have to pray the whole time for Mashiach ben Yosef. You have to keep praying. But Mashiach ben David, he's going to be able to do everything himself. But Yeshua, Mashiach ben Yosef needs everybody. He said, because Caleb, he used his own seichel. He went to the others and he knew right from the beginning. He said, however, Yeshua, Moshe had to pray for him. He said, Moshe Ben had to pray for him. He said, therefore, to this day, we have to pray that everything should be all right with Yeshua Ben Yosef. And they bring the Yerachim. I think that's a pretty amazing thing.
Garments and midot. What's the famous
Garment?
Garments and midot. You know the.
There's a garment.
What's the
Yeshua's a garment?
You know what I'm talking about? There's a mimer that talks about that one set of spies maps to the garments level and the others the midot, and you can't. The whole land is Moshe spies because it's a whole different mimer. Are we on camera still?
Huh?
Are we still live?
You want